Chapter 10. And the king Ahasuerus laid a tribute upon the land and upon the isles of the sea. And all the acts of his power and of his might, and the declaration of the greatness of Mordecai, whereunto the king advanced him, are they not written in the book of the chronicles of the kings of Media and Persia? For Mordecai the Jew was next unto King Ahasuerus, and great among the Jews, and accepted of the multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people, and speaking peace to all his seed. This is one of the shortest, if not the shortest, of all the 1,189 chapters in the entire Old and New Testament combined. But it answers a question which is a very puzzling question to many people. The question really is, how come most of the Jews, the vast majority of the Jews, who had been taken from Judah and Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar, didn't go back? And Nebuchadnezzar had taken these people not that long before this time. And yet these people had a chance to go back, and the vast majority of the Jews stayed. How come? Well, there were two reasons. First off, the vast majority of the Jews were not that religious. They had been quite willing to worship idols, the local gods of the communities. Babylon and the Persian Empire were very tolerant of what they wanted to worship. We see they had Daniel and they had other leaders like Mordecai, who were upstanding individuals, who were encouraging them to do what was right. But for a large majority of the people, I think, the fact that their variations on Judaism were tolerated, regardless of how sloppy they might have been, regardless of how careless they might have been, regardless how they might have mixed it with something else, the very fact that it was tolerated in the Persian Empire meant they had more freedom there, from their point of view, than they would have had back home if they had understood what back home in Judah and Jerusalem could have meant to them. The vast majority had no idea of the blessings of the temple, had no idea of the privileges and opportunities that they had available to them for obedience, had no personal memory of having been blessed by Heavenly Father for their righteousness, because the vast majority of them hadn't been. Otherwise, Nebuchadnezzar would never have been able to capture Judah and Jerusalem and take them away. So they were quite prepared to stay, because it was just as easy to live in the Persian Empire as it was to live in Jerusalem or the area that had been tribal Judah or Benjamin. Secondly, Mordecai and other leaders who were Jewish, who had influence with the kings, meant that these people did not suffer some of the persecutions that they might have suffered if they were back in the area of Judah or Jerusalem. And these people figured, if they're going to live in the biggest empire on the face of the earth, they might as well live where it's best, rather than go back to one of the outlying provinces and you have to deal with rough and tough and hard to live on, whereas if they're closer to the center of it, maybe they had more stuff. Interesting. But in any event, the vast majority of people stayed in the Babylonian Persian Empire rather than go back to Judah and Jerusalem. Interesting choice.